seconds left.
Great call, bad outcome if you're a fan of the burgundy and gold. Dan Bailey connecting from 54 yards, 9 seconds to play, giving Dallas a 19-16 win over the burgundy and gold. The burgundy and gold with a great chance to separate themselves from the rest of the NFC East, but they came up short. And that loss to the 3-8 Cowboys on Monday Night Football puts Washington in a tie in the underperforming NFC East. Welcome back to News Talk, everybody. We are joined now by Tom Threlkeld of the DC Pro Sports Report. It's always great to have you here. But
great to be here, Bruce.
I thought, and you know this because we talked yesterday, and I told you what I gave you my score, my prediction. I didn't see a scenario, and I should know better because this has been the wackiest year in a long time in the league. I saw no scenario where Dallas wins that game, and yet.
If you recall, I did not predict that Washington win. As someone who's followed this team for so long, yeah, look, this wasn't a huge surprise. The Cowboys have a very good defense. There's been a lot of focus on their problems in offense this year because of the injuries to Tony Romo and Des Bryant. But they have a good defense, and it showed up. There were some terrific games by DeMarcus Lawrence, a defensive lineman, and Sean Lee, their all-star linebacker, was terrific. They really confused Washington's offensive line.
And the special team lapsed by the home team.
It was terrible.
But
Dallas's defense really confused Washington's offensive line with a series of stunts and blitzes in the first half that had Kirk Cousins under constant pressure. There were some other issues. You're right, the special teams. You had a missed 43-yard field goal that should have been made. You had a terrible punt return and fumble by Deshaun Jackson, one of the 3 worst plays I've ever seen in all my years of watching football. I mean, this is a mental meltdown, and he was inconsolable afterwards, understandably. And then finally, the third big mistake by Washington special teams was allowing the long kickoff return, for Dallas's final drive.
The whole point of changing kickers was to get a guy who can do what so many other teams have, which is the guy who can bang the ball through the end zone, no return even.
That's right, and Hopkins has been good at that, but he wasn't this time, and that made all the difference. And that's the key for Washington, is making plays in critical situations. Good teams do, bad teams don't. Washington is a bad team. They didn't make the plays, they lost the game, and now they're 5-7 in a 3-way tie in the NFC least. And nobody from that division deserves to win to win the division championship.
No one deserves to be in the playoffs.
Right, that's right, or even host a playoff game, which somebody will. But Washington really made it much more difficult for themselves. This loss is very bad for their playoff chances.
In a moment, we'll show the standings. We'll talk about how the outcome from last night impacts the race for the division. Can you talk more about, and ESPN, sometimes I think we take for granted what a great job ESPN does with big games on the fly when everything has to happen in real time. And they showed, as the game was unfolding, what Dallas was doing to get that to stop the run and to keep the pressure on Kirk Cousins. Do you fault Jay Gruden for, and how weird is it to have John Gruden calling the game with his brother on the sidelines? Should the coaching staff have been able to adapt more quickly than they did?
Yeah, look, there are some talent problems on the offensive line that they can't do that much about. They tried to rebuild the offensive line. There have been some improvements, but the center position and the right guard position are problems that cannot be addressed until the offseason. And those issues have arisen because of the center and the left guard position. Those issues have arisen because of injuries. But that's common in football, and that should have been foreseen. But what bothered me about the game plan yesterday was how Washington they came into the season saying, we're going to be a tough team, a physical team, we're going to run the ball. And we're going to run the ball no matter what. Well, they've kept that promise, but the tough and physical part they haven't kept. They're not a good running team. They think they are. They act as if they are. They call plays as if they are, but they're not. They had 10 plays with an extra lineman last night. 10 plays. 8 of those plays were runs. Only 2 of them went for really good yardage. The other 6 plays went for 3 yards or less. They're predictable, and thus they are not very effective at what they're doing. Where were the bootlegs and the rollouts? Kirk Cousins, statistically speaking, is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when he's running a bootleg. There were very few of those called for some reason. There was very little effort to get Kirk Cousins out of the pocket when clearly the pocket was a dangerous place for him to be, particularly in the first half of that game. Jay Gruden and the offensive coordinator Sean McVay have decided they're going to run the ball again and again on first down, and for -1 yards, 0 yards, 1 yard, it brought up again and again, second and long, and that means third and long. The teams. Let me tell you, the teams that do well on third down are the teams that do well on first and second down, and Washington put itself in bad positions again and again.
So many teams are using the short pass on first down to get them into a 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, run on second down, get them to 3rd and 2, and then you've got every play in the playbook, including try to hit someone like Deshaun Jackson deep, do another short pass, run for 2.5 yards. You're in 3rd and 2. You're in a nice zone.
Right.
But
they don't do that right.
Something lacking in terms of the creativity.
I think there's
innovation.
a stubbornness. These are not dumb guys. Gruden, for all the criticism he takes, and McVay are not dumb guys. They can be quite creative, but they have just locked on to this thing of what they are. We're a running team, we're a power team, we're a tough team, and they're not. That's the problem. And so, but they are stubbornly clinging to this notion of what they are and what they should be. And when you look at the results, they averaged 2.8 yards per carry last night, and that's not uncommon recently. And we've also seen the disappearance of Alfred Morris. He was only in for 8 plays last night, none of them after the first quarter. And why would he? He had 6 carries for 12 yards. He's not very good. None of the running backs are very good behind that offensive line right now, and with the very predictable play calling.
Speaking of predictable, there was a strong tendency going into last night's game to say, okay, Dallas is without Tony Romo. They have yet to win without Romo, and
since 2010.
they have yet to win without Romo, and they are winless without him.
Right.
And to Washington's credit, they kept Dallas's offense in check. I mean, until they ended up with incredible field position late and converted, something Washington didn't do as fully with its turnover opportunities. The Dallas offense really amounted to very little when you look at the course of the game.
Right. Washington's defense did okay. There wasn't a lot of pressure on Matt Castle, but nevertheless, they did create 3 turnovers, and they won the turnover battle 3-1. They should have won that game. This is a recurring problem for Washington. They've now created 6 turnovers in the last 2 games, and off those 6 turnovers, they have a grand total of 3 points. This is how you lose games. 2 of the turnovers they created last night were in Dallas territory. Still, only 1 field goal. This is unacceptable. When you're watching football games and you see things like this happen, if you're following the team or you're a fan of the team, a sort of ominous feeling creeps over you, and that's what happened last night as I was watching this game. Because I know Washington simply is not good enough to get these kinds of opportunities and say, no thanks, we don't need them. They do need them, and they need to take advantage of them, and they don't. This is a recurring problem, and the single biggest reason why they lost last night, 3 turnovers for 3 points.
Only 15 seconds for this segment. I have to hit an out. Remarkable, yet another primetime game where Washington ends up on the short end.
Yeah, Washington, they're very bad on primetime, but they've just generally been bad for the most part, and they are 1-9 in their last 10 December games. If they're going to have any chance going forward, they got to turn that around, and they're going to have to start winning games on the road, starting with Chicago on Sunday.
You got to get hot when the weather gets cold.
Right.
Tom Thraupfeld, stand by, please. We'll take a break. Back with more right after this.